Well, hi, everybody. I'm Bob Schieffer of CBS News. The host, generally, my day job anyway, is the host and moderator of Face the Nation. I generally interview politicians. Today, I am interviewing an institution, Charlie Brennan. So let me ask you this, Charlie. Which came first, you or the arch?
Well, you know, Bob, in the words of Janet Reno, as I have said many times in the past, no, I think the arch was way before me.
Well, you are, I'll tell you, an institution here in St. Louis. You have been here 20 years now, celebrating 20 years in radio. How did you get into radio?
Well, you know, that's a good question, because a lot of people are wondering how they can get me out of radio. But I was one of those guys as a kid who, on the playground, was speaking into his hand while the other kids were playing, and I was doing the play-by-play, you know, the cupped hand over the mouth. And then I started broadcasting as a volunteer at Boston College Radio. I got out of Boston College after 4 years and started volunteering at a small radio station in Newton, Mass, where Zipper Zepper, who was a local broadcaster here, once worked, and so did Howard Stern. And this was a very small station where we signed on in the morning, signed off in the afternoon, and it was one of those jobs where I actually made minimum wage, and but it was a good experience. I kind of worked my craft, learned how to interview people, more or less, and then I basically one thing led to another, and I have not been able to get out of this crazy business since.
So what brought you to KMOX in St. Louis?
Well, I was making $12,000 a year in 1988. 6 years out of college. My dad visited. He said, "You can't live like this forever." I had purchased my kitchen furniture from MediMart. I was my living room was furnished with a couch that we had taken off the street, and I sent out 75 letters and tapes. I got 2 nibbles. One was in Hartford, Connecticut, at a station that Merv Griffin owned, and the other was here at KMOX in St. Louis. That was August of 1988. I packed up my Toyota Corolla, moved out here after they offered me a job, and the rest is history.
All of us have had these horror stories, these adventures, and especially in the early years. What were yours? What are some of the ones you think back on?
Well, I was a sports announcer for WNTN in Newton, and while reading the hockey scores, I couldn't remember the name of the professional NHL franchise in Boston. Now, that's not too good. You know, you're reading the NHL scores, you're in the Boston area, and you can't it's like being in St. Louis and not knowing the name of the Cardinals. You know, I just blanked. So I couldn't remember the name of the Boston Bruins. That was probably one of my worst. The worst moment, though, is, you know, because I wanted to be like you. I wanted to be a great CBS reporter. And the very first assignment they sent me at WNTN in Newton was to cover the opening of some safety deposit boxes at the Bay Banks in Newton Corner. And my job was to do the play-by-play live. You know, you could tell that the sponsors had a little bit of role in here. So I had to do the play-by-play as they cut the ribbon for these safety deposit boxes. And what was really newsworthy is that a model wearing a hat once worn by Greta Garbo came by, and she was putting it in the safety deposit box, the very first item in the safety deposit box. And so live on WNTN radio, there I was, I said, "And now the hat being worn by the model is arriving. It's inside the house. Soon it'll be downstairs and safely in the safety deposit box." Needless to say, we didn't send that tape to the Museum of Television and Radio.
When you came here to KMOX, did you apply for any specific job, or what happened after you got here?
Well, I met Bruce Bradley, who had been here for years, and my job really was to work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and then any weekends when there wasn't sports. And I thought, well, that means I'll work 5, 6 days a week. And Bruce Bradley shook my hand. He said, "Congratulations, you're now working 7 days a week." And he was right. As it worked out, the way the schedule worked, I was working evenings and doing fill-ins and weekend work. And at one point in 1989, I worked 63 straight days. Just that was the schedule. But, you know, it was good practice, and I didn't really complain because I was 28 years old, working at a fine station. I thought the finest radio station, and it was good practice for me.
I had one of those jobs back
right
down the line there. You know, the problem for me is I've been at CBS nearly 40 years now, and I'm still on weekends.
Yeah, well, hey, you got to get a better agent, I guess.
Exactly.